Welcome, listeners, to Tales, a podcast that brings your short stories to life through narrations, sound effects, and more. These stories will be brought to you by different authors with different writing styles, but with the same spooky vibes. So, lock your doors, check your closets, make certain there's nothing lurking under your bed, and enjoy.
And thereby hangs a tale.
A quiet arrangement. I never wanted a big house. I told Derek that when he started looking. Something small, maybe a fixer-upper, nothing with matching mailboxes or white pillars. I hated neighborhoods that looked too clean and symmetrical. They always felt like they were for people pretending to be happy. But Derek always had a way of making things sound reasonable. He said that we deserved a fresh start. Said that the taxes were low, the neighborhood was safe, and the place was already furnished. It sounded like a good investment, so I said yes. I guess that's what you do when you're in a marriage that you want to believe is still working. The moving truck arrived on a perfect Thursday morning, birds singing, and the sky was offensively blue.
Morning, neighbor,
someone called before I even stepped out of the car. A woman stood across the street in a pale pink sweater, holding a plate of cookies like she scripted it. Her smile never quite reached her eyes. This is how it starts, I muttered under my breath. Derek laughed.
Try not to be weird for one day.
I didn't answer. The neighborhood was called Halcyon Estates, which sounded like something from a brochure for retired cult members. It was one of those tucked-away developments you wouldn't find unless you were honestly looking for it. Off a county road, no street light, surrounded by trees and homes that all came in 3 shades of beige. The house itself was fine. Big. Really big. Hardwood floors that echoed. A kitchen with marble countertops. And a backyard that bordered a wooded lot. It honestly felt like a model home waiting for a real family to move in. Our bedroom was even staged. A white comforter, throw pillows, framed photo of flowers on the nightstand. I wandered downstairs to get a real feel of the place and noticed something strange. Most of the picture frames throughout the house still had photos in them, but not stock images. The same family appeared in every photo. A man, a woman, a young boy. At first, I thought they were placeholders, but in every frame, they wore different outfits, captured in different phases of life, like vacations, birthdays, a school recital. They were real. It hit me slowly. This house had belonged to them. This was their life. But why would they leave all this behind? Who moves out and forgets their family photos? Hey, I called to Derek, holding up a frame. Why are these still here? Why would the family leave these behind? He barely looked up from his box of cables.
Oh, I don't know, babe. Maybe they had to leave in a hurry or something, or maybe they'll come back for them. I'll take them to the HOA later, okay?
The HOA packet was over an inch thick. It came in a navy binder with gold lettering on the front. Halcyon Homeowners Covenant Agreement. I flipped through it while Derek was unpacking the kitchen. There were the usual. No political signs in the yard, trash cans must be out of sight, lawns must be maintained to community standards, and then something made me pause. Section 12.4, Compliance Clause. Homeowners agreed to uphold the integrity and peace of the neighborhood. Any behavior deemed disruptive to the harmony of the community will be addressed accordingly in a manner appropriate to the arrangement. I read it twice. The arrangement? I asked out loud. Derek didn't look up.
Legal filler? Probably about noise complaints?
That night, I saw a neighbor, who later I would find out was named Ava. I saw her from my bedroom window, 2 houses down, pacing on her porch, arms folded tight across her chest. A man stood in front of her, older, clean-shaven, HOA board member maybe. They weren't shouting, but their body language was enough said. She looked scared. He looked patient. She looked right up at me, so I stepped back from my window. The next morning, Eva was gone. I asked Derek if he noticed anything.
Maybe she went on vacation. You don't even know her.
Her house was dark. Her car was still in the driveway. And 3 days later, I watched 2 men in HOA polos carry a couch out of her living room. No moving truck, no boxes, just quiet efficiency. When I asked Miss Halbridge, that same woman across the street holding those cookies, if Ava had moved, she smiled.
Oh dear, Ava chose to relocate. She just wasn't a good fit here.
She said it in a way that you might talk about a shirt not matching your shoes. It was really unsettling. A good fit here? This was a copy and paste neighborhood. Beige houses, beige people, beige lives. Was I supposed to clash with? And then it clicked. They weren't friendly. They were curated. The smiles that stayed too long, the way no one ever talked about work or money, the way Officer Caro always drove by around 9 p.m. sharp, waving from a cruiser, never stopping. Derek was settling in too well. He joined the HOA community outreach. He started jogging with the neighbors. He said he felt lighter here. Said it was nice to be around people who understood boundaries. I didn't even know what that meant. And when I asked, he just said,
You'll feel it soon too.
That Sunday we were invited to a neighborhood brunch. Everyone dressed in soft colors. Someone played the piano in the corner of the clubhouse, but the eggs were overcooked and the orange juice was too warm. Yet everyone was pretending that it was perfect. I just stood by the window holding my paper plate watching the birds fly in unison. And then I heard it. A small voice behind me, low and careful. You should leave before you start asking questions. I turned around to see, but no one was there. A few days after brunch, I saw the patrol car again. Same time as always, 9 p.m. sharp. Same roll past our house, same little wave behind the glass, but this time I decided to wave back. I didn't know why. Maybe I just wanted to see if he'd stop. And he did. His name was Officer Caro. He looked exactly like someone who hated this neighborhood.
Everything all right, ma'am?
He asked, stepping out of his car. He kept his hand on his belt, but he didn't puff out his chest the way some cops do. He looked tired, maybe a little out of place. I'm fine, I said. I just can't sleep. The quiet's too loud. That made him smile, just barely. He leaned against the hood.
Yeah, I get that. This place feels like that. A little too neat, a little too watched.
I tilted my head. Watched? He looked off towards the streetlight.
You didn't hear it from me.
We talked for a few minutes. Nothing heavy, just small talk, with tension braided underneath, but he asked about the neighborhood, how I was settling in, if I'd met Miss Halbridge. He didn't ask about Derek. I guess he didn't need to. I didn't really tell him anything concrete, but I did ask about Eva. That made him pause.
Yeah, she's gone. Officially. But she didn't file a move notice. Didn't transfer her registration. No word to friends. It's like she just vanished.
You tried to investigate?
Tried. Didn't get far.
There was something in the way he said it. Like there were things he wanted to tell me, but he couldn't say them just standing there on the sidewalk under the street lamp. He handed me a card before he left. No name, just a number. A burner, maybe?
If you ever have questions, call this instead of dispatch.
I nodded. I didn't say I would, because I didn't know if I would. I didn't tell Derek about the conversation either. He'd been different lately. Not in a dramatic way, just smaller, less talk, more smiles. He spent more time with the HOA, more time jogging, asked fewer questions, and I started to notice things, little things. Like how Ava's name was never spoken again, not by anyone. Like how her house now, who I had assumed was her husband, was the only one still living there. Or how her belongings just vanished overnight, like she'd been scrubbed. and yet everyone was so damn cheerful about it. One night, I decided to pull out the HOA binder again. I went back to that compliance clause, that strange paragraph about preserving harmony. Then I started reading more closely, sections that I really hadn't looked at before. Section 14.2, Transitional Adjustment Period. New residents may experience difficulty assimilating to the community structure. All transitional disruptions will be handled with discretion in a partnership with the HOA assigned neighborhood advisors. Disruptions? Assimilation? It didn't sound like a housing agreement. It sounded like something you'd sign under duress. I asked Eric if he had read the binder.
Not all of it. Why?
Something just seems off.
You're overthinking again?
He gave me a slow blink. I'm just saying it's...
Leia, can we not start this again? We just got here. Things are finally stable. Let's not ruin that.
He kissed my forehead and walked off. But there was something in his voice that I hadn't heard in a while. Not irritation. Fear. The next day, I called the number Caro gave me. We met in a park about 20 minutes outside Halcyon, where the trees didn't line up perfectly and the birds didn't seem so rehearsed. He brought coffee, I brought questions. I think something happened to her, I said. Eva. And I think the HOA covered it up. Caro nodded, like he had already assumed that much.
There have been whispers. Not just Eva. One guy 3 years ago. A teenager before that. All living here. All just gone.
He sipped his coffee watching me.
So the question is, why were you and your husband able to move in?
That stopped me. I don't know, I admitted. It was a good question. I hadn't done anything to raise suspicion. Not really. We'd only been here a few weeks. I hadn't knocked on any doors. I hadn't asked the wrong people the wrong questions, but still, something felt off. This place didn't breathe like where we lived before. It was too quiet, in all the wrong places, too perfect. And Derek? He was changing too, slipping into something more polished and distant. He didn't argue, which scared me more than if he had. That Friday afternoon, there was another function. The wives here always had something scheduled. Luncheons, teas, charity planning, floral arrangement workshops, all with the same tone, bright pastel and brighter smiles. I usually had a made-up reason not to go, headache, errands, a made-up Zoom call, but this time, Derek nudged me gently towards the door.
You've got to try. These women could be good for you.
I didn't answer. I just grabbed my bag and my tolerance. The clubhouse was already filled when I arrived. Soft music played. Sparkling lemonade. Laughter felt rehearsed. They were nice. Like Stepford kind of nice. Questions about decor, gentle comments. Their eyes slid over you like a measuring tape. After about an hour, someone asked me if I could go grab another box of crackers from the storage room down the hall. Of course they'd run out of crackers. I stepped away. But honestly, I was grateful for the silence more than anything. Until I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around to find Lisa, one of the quieter wives. She was following me. She always wore neutral tones, and never spoke unless spoken to. I hadn't noticed her much until now. She glanced over her shoulder, and then stepped into the storage room with me. The door shut with a soft click.
You don't belong here,
she said quickly, her voice just above a whisper. I blinked. Excuse me? Lisa looked me in the eye, and her calm smile wavered for the first time. She reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out a small, black USB drive.
You and your husband need to leave now, before it's too late.
What is this?
It's proof. Some of it at least. It's what Eva tried to do, and the others. It doesn't end well. People around here deliberately say her name wrong. Like it's some kind of joke.
Lisa, but she was already backing out of the room, smoothing her skirt and fixing her expression like nothing had happened. By the time I stepped out behind her, she was already refilling glasses and laughing about lavender sachets. That night, while Derek slept beside me, I sat on the edge of the bed. I opened my laptop and plugged in the USB. There wasn't a password, just a folder titled Removed. Inside were documents, scanned, HOA reports with coded languages, and notes about disruption and remediation. There were pictures of Eva, and another folder had pictures of a man that I've never seen before, and a teenager. And then, me. A surveillance shot from the clubhouse brunch. My profile was slightly turned, and my eyes were distant. It was dated a week ago, labeled Under Evaluation. I sat frozen for a long time. Not scared. Not really. Just lost. Blank. Because part of me honestly felt like I had been given a key. But part of me wondered if I was ever meant to turn it. By the time spring came, I had settled into the neighborhood. I knew how to blend in. Smile with my eyes, dress in soft tones, ask the right questions, never the wrong ones. I knew how many seconds it took to wave to a neighbor without seeming cold, and how often to attend these luncheons and all these tea parties without looking aloof. I still didn't trust this place. Not really, but I've learned to survive it. I kept my distance from Lisa. Even after she gave me the USB, we never spoke again. Not even a glance too long in her direction. Not a nod. Nothing. We both knew how quickly attention could rot into suspicion. I've met with Officer Caro a few times out of the way. Grocery stores, gas stations, one time at a church rummage sale. I showed him the drive, and he looked through it carefully, narrowing his eyes.
It's a lot of smoke, but no fire. Nothing on here directly ties them to anything criminal. Technically, there's nothing illegal about selling a house or moving without notice.
And the missing people?
No missing person reports filed. I checked again last week. It's like they vanished clean. No flags, no searches, no family calling in. It's like they were erased.
Or maybe they didn't have anyone to miss them. Eva's husband stayed in the house for nearly a month after she left. Then one afternoon, he hosted a cookout. I saw him in the backyard with a woman laughing, but I've never seen her before. And 2 days later, they moved in together into a house 3 blocks over. By the end of the week, Eva's old home had a for sale sign out front. It was like she had been replaced. Caro and I made a plan to expose the HOA. Not with half hints or abstract suspicion, but with something real. He said the HOA kept physical files somewhere, paper records that wouldn't be on a drive. Records that wouldn't be digitized. He just needed a time and a place, something solid. I said I'd try. I started paying closer attention, looking for cracks in the walls. They came sooner than I expected. Miss Halbridge dropped off tea, unannounced, carrying a small envelope with my name written in perfect cursive. Inside was a formal notice from the HOA. Concern: deviation from community harmony expectations. Recommendation, observation, and corrective review. I read it 3 times.
Oh, it's nothing serious, dear. Just a little feedback. A few of the ladies have noticed you seem distracted at the gatherings. You don't always stay the full hour, and you tend to keep your curtains drawn.
I didn't know that was against policy.
Oh, it's not, but we believe in presence, in openness. Besides, this is your home now. Don't you want to feel like part of it?
That's when I knew I needed to act. I needed them to see me, to believe I was still skeptical, defiant. I needed them to tighten the leash. So I did something questionable and deliberate. I asked one of the wives if she had ever heard from Eva again, loud enough for the others to hear, soft enough to pass harmlessly. I saw the reaction. It was a ripple. It reached the HOA within a day. A week later, I received another letter, this time unsigned. HOA meeting, confidential topic. Attendance required, location, maintenance building, lower level. Tuesday, 9 p.m. There was no return address, no details, just the implication. I left a voicemail for Caro that night. My voice was quick and tight. I told him about the meeting, the location, and the time, and then I deleted the message after it was sent. I sat in the dark. My heart was thudding against the loud silence. I had no idea what I was about to walk into. but I knew something was coming. I arrived at the maintenance building at 8 p.m. sharp, 1 hour before I told Officer Caro the meeting was starting. A small beige structure tucked in between manicured shrubs. The landscaping trucks were parked usually outside, but nobody lingered. Inside, the lights were already on, and a folding table had been set out in the center of the room. It was all concrete, 8 chairs around it, name placards written in delicate cursive that was used for everything, and the one chair at the head. Derek was already there when I walked in. He didn't speak. He just took my coat and gestured towards the seat beside him. The others followed shortly. After Miss Halbridge, Mr. Reagan, that polite man who ran the flower fundraiser, and 2 women whose names I'd never learned but always seemed to be taking notes. And finally, the president of the HOA, a man named Harlan Graves, gray suit, thin-rimmed glasses, voice like warm concrete. Outside behind the west window, Carl was watching. He had arrived early to scout the place out, maybe walk the perimeter, find proof. He hadn't expected this. He crouched from his position and he watched Leigh take her seat from a calm, composed position. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. She looked like a woman that was waiting her turn to speak. Inside, the meeting had begun, with no small talk.
Mrs. Monroe, we understand there have been some concerning behaviors.
I let the silence sit for a moment before answering. Yes, I said. I suppose asking about missing neighbors qualifies?
And why did you choose to question about Eva Sykes?
Another woman asked. Because people don't just vanish. And if you think I haven't noticed the way this place operates, you're wrong.
What are you suggesting?
Harlan narrowed his eyes. I stood up, let my voice rise slightly. This neighborhood is sick, that it removes people who don't just fit, and you do it with smiles and cookies, recommendations, but it's all control, all of it. There was a flicker of tension, uneasy glances. Miss Halbridge pursed her lips, and then I laughed. It started to soften, but then rose. A bright, crisp laugh that echoed against the concrete walls. Everyone around the table smiled, except Lisa. She was seated near the end, arms stiff, eyes darting between me and the others like she'd wandered into the wrong room and couldn't find the exit. I turned toward her. Lisa, I said kindly, thank you for coming. She didn't respond. She's the one who passed me the information, I said, turning back to the group. A hard drive. She doesn't know how deep any of this goes. She thinks she's part of some resistance, but she's not working alone. Lisa's lips parted just barely, shock, then betrayal, then fear. Also, I added, Officer Caro has been asking questions. I gave him just enough information to keep him interested. Caro had only come early on instinct, and now the instincts were screaming. He had to go. He had to go now. He didn't know what he'd walk into. He didn't want to stick around to find out. He backed away from the window, boots crunching in the gravel. Breath caught tight in his chest. Leigh Monroe had set him up. He didn't stay to see how the night would end. I bowed my head slightly. Thank you. Miss Halbridge started to clap. The others followed. Soft, warm applause, like I'd just hosted a successful bake sale. Derek leaned over and kissed my cheek. I kissed him back, gently, as if it had always been this way. Lisa didn't move. Her hands sat clenched in her lap, trembling, eyes locked on mine. She didn't cry or scream. Her face showed that she understood. She understood that I had to choose the arrangement. A few weeks later, the house where Lisa used to live had new curtains. A young couple with a golden retriever and a little girl who wore sparkly boots. The wife seemed tired. The husband did most of the talking. I brought them cookies in a little neat tin, sugar with glazed lavender. I smiled the way I had learned to, warm, friendly, almost motherly, the kind of smile that never quite reaches your eyes. Welcome to Halcyon, I said. You're gonna love it here. They thanked me, told me it felt like a dream. Across the street, a patrol car rolled by. Good day, Officer Fulmer, I said with a wave. He tipped his cap. The couple looked confused.
Wow, you know the officer by name?
Oh, yes, I said, smiling. We all do. It's a very safe neighborhood.
A Quiet Arrangement was written and edited by N. Varro and narrated by Dana Diaz, Brody Masons, and Dee Madison. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to follow and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Tales Podcast is now available on YouTube, where you can listen to both new and previously released episodes. And if you're on TikTok or Instagram, head on over and follow for short, eerie, and educational clips tied to each story. Thank you for listening, and remember, not every story stays where you leave it. Bye-bye.